The Galactic Council chambers hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of a dozen alien languages. Holographic star maps flickered above the central dais, casting shifting blue light across the silver walls. Gravity-adjusted thrones lined the circular room, each occupied by representatives of species that had ruled the stars for millennia. Captain Ryan Blake stood at the human delegation's modest podium, his boots planted firmly on the floor. The other delegates lounged in their seats, some floating, some coiled, some supported by anti-grav fields. His uniform was simple compared to their shimmering bio, armor and ornate ceremonial wraps. E-Team Faye droned the Council's AI moderator. Assessment of Sol System defensive capabilities. A Vorak ambassador uncoiled from his throne, his scaled frills flaring in amusement. Krell's forked tongue flicked out as he examined Blake. Let us be blunt, soft shell. Your world is quaint, charming, even, but undefended. His claws clicked against the podium. A single fleet could reduce it to molten slag. Laughter rippled through the chamber. A Zephyrian commander leaned forward, her four eyes blinking in sequence. Vexus's voice carried the melodic lilt of her species, though the words cut like knives. We've scanned your orbital grids, a few outdated satellites, some mining platforms. Nothing that could stop even a merchant raider. Blake's fingers tightened around the data chip in his pocket. The label Project Bastion, classified, dug into his palm. Earth's defenses are sufficient, he said, keeping his voice level. Sufficient? Krell hissed. For what? Deterring your own primitive aircraft? The Vorak gestured to the hologram, where Earth rotated peacefully. Look at it. No planetary shields, no orbital fortresses, just blue skies and open cities. His frills vibrated with mocking laughter. A perfect prey world. Vexus stood, her armored plates shifting like liquid metal. The Zephyrian hegemony proposes reclassifying Sol System as a protectorate, for your own safety, of course. Her mandibles twitched. We wouldn't want some less civilized species to take advantage of your weakness. Blake exhaled slowly. He'd been briefed on this moment, every possible taunt, every provocation. Earth Command's orders had been clear. Let them underestimate us. Humanity appreciates the Federation's concern, Blake said, choosing each word carefully. But we decline the offer. Krell's tail lashed. Decline on what grounds? That Earth is not as defenseless as you believe. The chamber erupted in clicks, hisses, and chittering laughter. A telepathic Ceralion delegate pulsed amusement directly into Blake's mind. Your bravado is adorable. Little mammal. Vexus stepped closer, her armored fingers tapping the podium. Captain Blake, let me educate you. The Zephyrian Third Fleet could glass your planet in 6 hours. The Vorak swarm, 3, and you have nothing to stop us. Blake met her gaze. Try it. Silence fell. Krell's frills stiffened. Was that a threat? No, Blake said. An invitation. He finally pulled the data chip from his pocket, sliding it across the podium. This contains our full defensive assessment, for the record. Vexus snatched it up, her claws slicing the air. More human delusions. She inserted the chip into her wrist console. The hologram flickered, then displayed a single line of text. Classified Project Bastion. Active. The Zephyrian's eyes narrowed. What is this? Blake allowed himself a small smile. Insurance. Krell lunged forward, his claws gouging the podium. Enough games. Your pitiful species clings to scraps of pride. But we see you, weak, divided prey. The Ceralian's mental voice slithered into Blake's mind again. Why not surrender? Your kind were never meant for the stars. Blake straightened his uniform. You're right about one thing. Ambassador, Earth is open. Our cities are unshielded, our skies undefended. He tapped the data chip, but that is not a weakness. Vexus's mandibles twitched. Then what is it? A choice, Blake said. One we're reconsidering. The chamber buzzed with confusion. Krell's tail lashed again. You bluff poorly, human. Blake turned to leave. Counselors, you have our answer. Earth stands alone. As he reached the doors, Vexis called after him, her voice dripping with amusement. Run home to your fragile world. Captain Prey we never decide to visit. Blake didn't look back. His fingers brushed the second data chip in his pocket, the one labeled Core Protocol. Let them come, he thought. Let them all come. The chamber doors hissed shut behind him. The Zephyrian dreadnought Harbinger hung in the void like a blade poised to strike. Its obsidian hull absorbed starlight, the plasma lances along its flanks humming with barely restrained energy. Admiral Thalax flexed his clawed hands, his chitinous armor clicking as he leaned over the holographic display. Mars glowed red below them, small, undefended, perfect for their demonstration. Begin the firing sequence, Thalax ordered, his voice a guttural rasp. Let the humans see what happens when prey forgets its place. On the bridge of the Harbinger, Zephyrian officers moved with predatory efficiency. Tactical Officer Vrix adjusted the targeting array, his compound eyes reflecting the countdown. Plasma cannons charged. Admiral trajectory locked. No defensive signatures detected. Lieutenant Lisa Hayes watched from the shadows of the human observation deck, her fingers tight around the railing. The Zephyrians hadn't even bothered to block their comms. They wanted Earth to hear every word. She tapped her earpiece. They're going for it, sir. Aboard the USN Sentinel, Captain Ryan Blake exhaled slowly. Hold position. Let them fire. The Harbinger shuddered as its primary cannons unleashed twin beams of superheated plasma. The energy lanced toward Mars, a brilliant streak of annihilation, until halfway there the beams wavered. Like water hitting an invisible wall, they fractured, dispersed, then vanished entirely. Silence gripped the Zephyrian bridge. Vrix's mandibles twitched. Admiral, the beams were absorbed. Thalax's tail lashed. Impossible, rescan the area. Lisa couldn't help the smirk curling her lips. On her display, hidden satellites flickered into view, massive hexagonal platforms unfolding from cloaked positions. Their surfaces shimmered like heat haze, dissipating the plasma into harmless energy. First layer activated, she murmured. Mars remained untouched. On the Harbinger, alarms blared as the tactical display updated. Vrix's voice cracked. Energy signatures everywhere. Orbital grids, point defense arrays. Admiral, the entire system is armed. Thalax slammed a fist into the console. Where did these come from? Our scans showed nothing. Lisa's comm crackled. Blake's voice was ice. Lieutenant, give them a show. She tapped a command. Across Mars orbit, the defense platforms pulsed once, twice, before unleashing a synchronized burst of light. Not weapons, fire a message. The holographic star map in the Zephyrian war room flared to life, projecting Earth's defensive network in its entirety, layer upon layer of hidden fortifications, from Mercury's stealth mines to Neptune's long-range railgun nests. The entire solar system lit up like a cage of fire. Vrix recoiled. It is a trap. Thalax's frills flattened against his skull. All ships retreat too. The Harbinger lurched violently as something locked onto them. The view screen flickered, then displayed a feed from Mars's surface. A single human officer stood before a bank of monitors, his face grim. Admiral Thalax. Major Jake Morrison said, his voice carrying across the void. You just triggered Earth's welcome mat. The transmission cut, and the Harbinger's scanners screamed. From the dark side of Mars, a dozen silos opened. Magnetic coils hummed to life, accelerating tungsten slugs to relativistic speeds. The first round punched through a Zephyrian frigate, like it was made of glass. The second sheared the Harbinger's starboard wing clean off. Lisa watched the chaos unfold, her fingers flying over her console. Railguns confirmed online. Zephyrian fleet is scattering. Blake's voice was calm. Let them run. They've seen enough. On the Harbinger, Thalax clung to his command throne as the ship listed sideways. His bridge was in shambles, officers scrambling to contain the damage. Vrix gasped, his carapace cracked from a falling console. Admiral, the human defenses. They were hiding. Thalak stared at the burning wreckage of his fleet on the view screen. His mandibles worked soundlessly. Earth hadn't been undefended. It had been waiting. The Vorak fleet emerged from warp in perfect formation, their sleek black hulls blotting out the stars. Warmaster Drax flexed his talons against the command throne of the Bloodfang, his crimson eyes fixed on the blue-green marble below. The Zephyrians were fools, he hissed to his bridge crew. They let prey psychology cloud their judgment. That defense grid was a fluke, some last-ditch human trickery. On Luna's barren surface, Major Jake Morrison watched the tactical display with a predator's patience. His fingers danced across the holographic controls, each tap activating another buried system. The moon's pockmarked face hid secrets older than the Federation itself. All stations condition red, he murmured into his headset. Let's give our guests a proper welcome. The Vorak destroyers descended like a swarm of locusts, their ventral plasma batteries charging. Drax leaned forward, mandibles clicking in anticipation. Burn their cities. Let Earth learn what happens to. The moon erupted. Craters yawned open across the lunar surface, revealing cavernous silos that had lain dormant for decades. Massive magnetic coils hummed to life, their vibrations shaking dust from the regolith. The first tungsten slug launched with a silent flash, crossing the distance to the Vorak vanguard in less than a second. The claw of vengeance disintegrated in a bloom of white-hot debris. Drax's frills flared in shock. Evasive, too late. A second round punched through the Bloodfang's forward shields, like they weren't there. The impact sent the massive warship spinning, atmosphere venting from a gaping hole in its hull. Alarms shrieked across the bridge as gravity fluctuated. "War Master," cried his tactical officer. "They're weapons. They're not energy-based." "They're kinetic," Jake said over the open comm channel, his voice calm as a surgeon's. 20-ton slugs accelerated to Fey light speed. We call them Dawn Knockers. Another salvo launched, this time from the Tycho array. The Vorak's bane vanished in a cloud of molten metal. Drax snarled, slamming a fist into his armrest. "All ships, target those silos, maximum fire." Plasma beams lanced downward, carving glowing scars across the lunar surface. Jake watched the heat signatures bloom on his display. "They're learning," he remarked to his lieutenant. "Too bad for them, we didn't show the fun part yet." Deep beneath Mare Tranquillitatis, 100 dormant reactors synced their power cycles. The moon's crust trembled as the real weapons woke. The Vorak gunners had just locked onto another silo when the entire Tycho crater lit up, not with the flash of a single railgun, but with 50, the coordinated barrage turned space into a killing field. Vorak ships twisted and broke like twigs in a hurricane. The Bloodfang took 3 direct hits, its starboard nacelle shearing clean off. Drax clung to his throne as the deck tilted violently. "How?" he roared. "No species hides this much firepower." Jake's face appeared on the main view screen, his helmet visor reflecting the dying light of Vorak ships. "You keep thinking like a predator," he said. "That is your mistake." Behind him, lunar dust swirled as another battery of silos opened. "Earth's not prey. We're the thing that made predators extinct." The Bloodfang's sensors screamed a final warning as the next volley locked on. Drax had just enough time to see the tungsten rounds gleaming in the sunlight before they struck. The flagship split open like an overripe fruit, its spine snapping under the impact. Atmosphere and bodies spilled into the void as the wreckage tumbled toward Jupiter's gravity. Well on Luna, Jake watched the last Vorak ship jump to warp, trailing plasma like a wounded animal. He keyed the fleet-wide channel. "All units, stand down. Let one go. They'll deliver the message for us." His lieutenant exhaled sharply. "Sir, the Council's hailing us. They're demanding." Jake removed his helmet, running a hand through sweat, damp hair. "Tell them Earth will respond at our leisure." He glanced at the tactical display. where the remaining railguns were already retracting beneath the regolith. And, Lieutenant, make sure they understand this was just the welcome party. Far below, Earth's oceans glittered innocently in the sunlight, hiding deeper secrets beneath their waves. The holographic displays in the Galactic Council chambers flickered wildly, casting jagged blue light across the panicked faces of the assembled delegates. Ambassador Krell's frills stood rigid as he watched the live feed from the Sol system, Vorak ships burning, Zephyrian dreadnoughts listing helplessly in the void. His claws dug into the armrests of his gravity throne, the polished bone cracking under the pressure. This is impossible. The Vorak's voice was a guttural snarl, his translator struggling to keep up with his rage. Their planetary defenses shouldn't what? Professor Celine Voss stepped forward, her boots clicking against the chamber's polished floor. The human xenohistorian had been silent until now, observing from the shadows. Her datapad glowed softly in her hands, its screen displaying a rotating model of Earth, layers upon layers of hidden infrastructure pulsing beneath the surface. Shouldn't exist, shouldn't be able to stop you. The Zephyrian delegate, a towering figure with chitinous plates shifting in agitation, slammed a fist onto the console. You deceived the Federation. Concealing military assets violates. Violates what? Celine cut in, her voice sharp. The treaty you wrote to keep lesser species in line. She tapped her datapad, and the holograms shifted, displaying centuries of human history. Wars, fortifications, the slow, deliberate hardening of Earth into something unbreakable. We didn't hide our strength, you just never bothered to look. A Ceralian delegate, their floating orbs darting nervously, projected a shaky thought, speech into the chamber. This level of militarization, it's unheard of for a species so young. Celine smirked. Young, maybe, but we've spent every second of our existence preparing for this. She flicked her fingers, and the hologram zoomed in, Earth's crust peeling back to reveal subterranean cities, orbital defense grids woven into the atmosphere, dormant superweapons buried beneath the ocean floor. You called us prey, but prey doesn't build this. Krell's frills quivered. You lured us. Of course we did. Celine's smile was cold. We needed to know who'd be stupid enough to attack first. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted over each other, some demanding retribution, others calling for immediate surrender. A Vespidian envoy's wings buzzed in agitation as they turned to the human delegation. You could have told us, prevented this bloodshed. Captain Blake, standing at the edge of the room with his arms crossed, finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the chaos like a blade. Would you have believed us? Silence. Blake stepped forward, the data chip labeled Project Bastion glinting in his palm. You saw what you wanted to see. Weakness, fragility, a species begging for protection. He slotted the chip into the central console, and the holograms shifted again, this time showing the full extent of Earth's defenses, layer by layer, from the outer orbitals down to the planetary core. But we don't beg. We endure. Krell's claws twitched toward his sidearm, a reflex, nothing more. But Blake's eyes locked onto the movement, and for the first time, the Vorak ambassador saw something in the human's gaze that made his blood run cold. Go ahead, Blake murmured. Give me a reason. Krell's hand fell away. Celine took the opportunity to step closer to the central display, her fingers dancing across the controls. Let me show you what you're really dealing with. The hologram zoomed out, revealing the Sol system in its entirety, and the thousands of dormant defense platforms hidden in the asteroid belt, around gas giants, even floating in the Oort cloud. This isn't just a planet, it's a fortress, and every inch of it was built with one purpose. The chamber held its breath. To survive. Celine's voice dropped to a whisper, no matter what. A Zephyrian tactical officer, his exoskeleton still streaked with soot from the Harbinger's wreckage, staggered into the chamber. Admiral Thalax, he's been captured. The humans, they've activated something in Earth's core. Our sensors can't even classify it. Blake didn't smile, didn't gloat. He just watched as the reality settled over the council like a shroud. You thought you were apex predators, Celine said softly. But Earth was designed for war. Krell's frills finally went limp. The Vorak ambassador sagged in his throne, his voice barely audible. What have we done? The Zeperian fleet reeled in disarray, their once proud formation shattered. Admiral Thalex gripped the arms of his command throne as the Harbinger's bridge lights flickered red. Warning klaxons wailed through the cavernous chamber, and his officers scrambled to assess the damage. Report, Thalex barked, his voice tight with barely contained panic. Admiral, our flank is gone. A junior officer cried. The Voidclaw and Duskrend, both destroyed. The humans, their defenses. Thalex's crest flared in fury. Impossible. Their orbital grid was supposed to be primitive. On the main view screen, Earth loomed, serene, blue, mocking. The planet's atmosphere shimmered again, and Thalex's blood ran cold as another wave of hidden platforms decloaked. Not just turrets, not just railguns, battle stations, hundreds of them. All ships full retreat, Thalex roared. Get us out of this system. But the comms crackled, and a human voice cut through the chaos. Admiral Thalex. The bridge fell silent. The voice was calm, almost polite. Captain Ryan Blake's face appeared on screen, his expression unreadable. Behind him, the bridge of the USN Defiance hummed with quiet efficiency. You've seen our orbital defenses, Blake said, but you still don't understand. Thalex snarled. This changes nothing. Your pitiful world will. Blake held up a hand. Core protocol. Authorization, Blake. 7-9 Omega. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the oceans moved across Earth's surface. Vast stretches of water parted. Island chains shuddered, then rose, shedding megatons of rock and vegetation. Thalex's mandibles dropped open as the truth dawned. They weren't islands. They were hull plating. The Defiance wasn't just a ship. It was a continent. Admiral, Blake said softly, meet Earth's final defense. The Defiance's engines ignited. Not the flickering blue of fusion drives, but the searing white of something else. Something older, something human. Thalaxis tactical officer whimpered. Energy readings off the scale. That's not possible. Blake leaned forward. You came to conquer. Now, you'll learn why humanity never needed the Federation. The Defiance's main weapon, a barrel wider than a city, glowed crimson. Fire. Space ripped. A beam of pure annihilation lanced out, carving through the Zeperian fleet like a scythe. Ships vaporized, shields meant to withstand supernovas failed. The Harbinger's port side vanished in an instant, the sheer force of the blast sending the dreadnought spinning. Thalex was thrown from his throne, crashing into a console. Pain flared through his exoskeleton, but he barely registered it. His mind reeled. This wasn't a fortress world. This was a trap. Blake's face reappeared. Surrender, Admiral, or well demonstrate what this weapon does to a planet. Thalex's claws trembled for the first time in his life. The great Zeperian Warmaster felt fear. He opened a fleet-wide channel. His voice cracked. All ships, stand down. Silence then. One by one, the Zeperian vessels powered down their weapons. Blake nodded. Wise choice. On the Defiance's bridge, Lieutenant Hayes let out a slow breath. They actually did it. They attacked us. Blake didn't smile. They always do. Outside, the remnants of the Zeperian fleet drifted, broken. The Defiance's weapon cooled, its glow fading, but not disappearing. Just waiting. Earth's oceans settled. The islands. No, the armor plating, slowly submerged once more. But the galaxy would never forget what it had just seen. Humanity hadn't just defended itself. It had ended the war in a single shot. The wreckage of the Harbinger drifted in the shadow of Jupiter, its once proud blackened hull, now a twisted skeleton of molten metal and shattered plasma conduits. The Zeperian flagship's bridge was a tomb. Its viewports cracked open to the void. the bodies of Admiral Thalek's crew frozen in their final moments of terror. Captain Blake stepped over the debris, his boots magnetized to the deck as he surveyed the carnage. Behind him, a squad of human Marines fanned out, their rifles sweeping for survivors. There were none. The Harbinger had died hard, but it had died. A transmission crackled in his earpiece. "Blake, we've got the Vorak fleet surrendering near Mars." Lieutenant Hayes' voice was tight with satisfaction. "Their flagship's engines are slag. They're not going anywhere." Blake tapped his comm. "Copy that. Hold position. I'm bringing in the Defiance." He turned as the massive dreadnought slid into view through the shattered viewport. The USN Defiance, Earth's last and greatest secret, loomed like a continent given wings. Its surface, once disguised as chains of islands, now bristled with weapon ports and shield projectors. The sight of it made even the battle-hardened Marines pause. A hologram flickered to life beside him, Admiral Thalek's, his carapace cracked, one antennae missing. The Zeperian War Master's voice was a rasp. "You hid this for centuries." Blake didn't smile. "We hid a lot of things." The doors to the bridge hissed open, and Ambassador Krell staggered in, his frills torn, his once pristine robe stained with coolant. The Vorak diplomat's eyes darted to the Defiance, then to Blake. "This was never about defense," he hissed. "This was a trap." Blake tilted his head. "No, it was a test." Krell's claws twitched. "A test. To see who would be stupid enough to attack us first." Blake stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You called us prey. You thought we were weak. Now your fleets are burning, and Earth's guns are still warm." A new transmission cut in Professor Voss, her face calm on the hollow display. "The Galactic Council is demanding an emergency session. They're panicking." Blake exhaled. "Tell them we'll talk, but not here." He looked at Thalek's, then Krell. "You're coming to Earth." The council chambers on Unity Station had never been so silent. The holographic star maps flickered with red markers, dead ships, broken fleets, the remnants of the Zeperian and Vorak armadas. The alien delegates sat rigid, their appendages clenched, their frills flattened in submission. At the center of the room, Captain Blake stood beside Professor Voss. A human flag had been planted on the podium, its colors stark against the silver metal. The Octavian delegate, her tentacles coiled tight, was the first to speak. "You deceived us. Your world was armed beyond measure." Voss adjusted her glasses. "We didn't deceive you, you assumed. You saw no orbital guns, no fleet yards, and you thought we were defenseless." She tapped a datapad, and schematics of Earth's hidden defenses flickered into the air. "Every war humanity ever fought taught us one lesson. The best weapon is the one your enemy never sees." A Sorelian floated forward, its orbs pulsing with unease. "And now, what do you want?" Blake crossed his arms. "Peace on our terms," Krell snarled. "You expect us to bow to you?" "No," Blake's voice was ice. "I expect you to listen. The Federation's rules didn't protect us. Your laws didn't stop you from attacking. So here's the new deal." He leaned forward. "Earth controls the defense grid. Our ships patrol the core systems. Any species that wants protection answers to us." The chamber erupted. "You can't dictate terms." A Zeperian delegate shouted. Blake didn't raise his voice. "We already have." He nodded to Voss. She tapped another command. The holograms shifted, showing the Defiance hovering near Jupiter, its guns trained on Unity Station. "This isn't a negotiation," she said softly. "It's a statement." The room fell silent again. Then, one by one, the delegates bowed their heads. On the observation deck of the Defiance, Blake watched the stars. Behind him, Lieutenant Hayes approached, holding a data slate. Councils ratified the new accords. They're calling it the Terran Pact. Blake didn't turn. "Good," Hayes hesitated. "Sir, was this always the plan?" He finally looked at her. "Which part?" letting them think we were weak, letting them attack. His lips thinned. No, the plan was to survive. The rest was just humanity being humanity. Below them, Earth hung in the void. Its oceans calm, its cities glowing. To the naked eye, it looked peaceful. But now the galaxy knew better. The rebuilt Galactic Council chamber hummed with quiet tension. Where once alien delegates had lounged in arrogant comfort, now they sat stiff-backed, their appendages twitching nervously. The great holographic star map at the center of the room showed human patrol routes stretching across every major system, a web of control radiating from Earth. Fleet Admiral Blake strode through the arched doorway, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The once mocking Zeperian and Vorak ambassadors flinched at his approach. Behind him, the massive viewport displayed the USN Defiance, hovering over Jupiter, its planet-sized bulk casting shadows across the gas giant's storms. A young Zeperian cadet stood near the entrance, his exoskeleton still bearing the fresh blue markings of a first-year officer. His antennae quivered as Blake passed. "Fleet Admiral," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Might I ask a question?" Blake paused, turning slowly. The scars from the battle still marked his face, pale lines against sun, darkened skin. "Speak, cadet." The Zeperian's mandibles worked silently for a moment before he managed. "Why didn't you show your strength sooner? All those years of pretending to be weak." Why? Around them, the chamber had gone utterly still. Even the ever-present hum of the station's system seemed to fade. Blake's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. He reached into his jacket and removed a small, ancient data chip, the same one he'd gripped during that first council meeting. "You recognize this?" He held it up, letting the light glint off its scratched surface. "Project Bastion, not just our defense plans, a test." The cadet's faceted eyes tracked the chip's movement. "A test?" Blake's voice dropped, carrying through the silent chamber. 300 years ago, after the last World War, we made a decision. Never again would humanity be vulnerable, so we built and we waited. He tapped the chip against his palm. But we needed to know who would come for us first, who saw us as prey. A Vorak delegate at the far table hissed, his frills flushing dark purple. Blake's gaze snapped to him. "Your War Master Drax took the bait, just like Admiral Thalex." He turned back to the cadet. "That is why we waited, to see who would be stupid enough to attack us first." The cadet's exoskeleton paled to a sickly green. Behind him, the star map flickered, updating to show 12 new human battleships, taking position near the Zeperian homeworld. No one in the chamber missed the implication. Blake slid the data chip back into his pocket. "The lesson isn't just for you. It is for every species out there who thinks strength means showing your teeth first." He turned toward the exit, then paused at the threshold. "Humanity doesn't conquer, but cross us." He nodded toward the viewport, where the Defiance's main cannon began its slow, ominous rotation. "Now you know what happens." As the door hissed shut behind him, the chamber erupted into frantic whispers. The cadet remained frozen, staring at the spot where Blake had stood. Outside, the stars seemed colder somehow, their light dimmed by the shadow of human warships. On the surface below, Earth's atmosphere shimmered briefly, just for a second, as its defense grid re-engaged. Then it was gone again, a blue-green jewel hanging harmless against the black. A perfect illusion, a sleeping dragon. The cadet finally moved, his claws clicking against the floor as he retreated to his delegation. None of the older Zeperians would meet his eyes. They were all staring at the star map, at the human ships now parked in every strategic system. At the new order of things, somewhere in the depths of the station, an alarm began to wail, a drill perhaps, or maybe another test. The cadet shuddered. He wondered how many more layers Earth had left to reveal, how many more surprises waited in that deceptively fragile-looking world. The answer, he suspected, would only come when someone was foolish enough to find out.